Happy to be here finally after COVID. It's been 2 years since my last visit to Manila. Today I'm going to speak about phishing infrastructure that's been hosted in a specific registrar's ability and how threat actors take advantage of basically what is very common to all of us, phishing attacks, but how they are doing efficiently and how it's very hard to detect it and basically to remediate this kind of attack. So it all starts, as you probably know, with messages. It can be SMS, it can be emails, it can be many things, but the important part is that the victim believes that this is a real message from its service provider, bank, or whatever he works with, and then basically he logs in into a phishing site, a phishing website. It can be anything that you want. But what is important is that when you remediate one, another comes in after. And the important part to understand is why threat actors are able to create so many phishing sites to a specific victim, and what can we do with it, how can we monitor it, and why it's so hard to detect it. So I will start with explaining a bit of how registrars are working and how threat actors take advantage of it. In the last several years, it became very common to have what we call dynamic DNS provider. That basically means that the registrar that you can register a domain in can allow you to register a subdomain and not a real domain and provide you a free DNS ability. That means that basically you have unlimited ability to create subdomains without any kind of audit to that. So if you look on your registered domains and all of these kind of solutions, you won't be able to detect it. You see here an example of these kind of providers, but there are obviously many more of these. What we can see is the scale of this kind of activity. Basically, threat actors understood that they can create some kind of a phishing kit, deploy it on this kind of registrar, and just create subdomains, or in another way, just create phishing websites in an unavailable scale, like 22,000 new subdomains every day only on one registrar. And from that, they are able to attack the victims basically undetectable. Nobody can detect it because there aren't any new registered domains, or you cannot really understand what's going on. And if you will detect one, they will just create another. Now, what you can see here is the scale of it. Look on the left side of the slide, and you can see a comparison that we did between what we call standard phishing attack infrastructure, which is just someone that created a website, registered a domain, and attacked from it, and this dynamic DNS activity, which means that nobody registered a domain. It's just a new subdomain, which is obviously free. And the ability to create it and to attack victim from it is very, very challenging to all of us. If we are looking on a sectorial breakdown and what are the victims or who attack what, you won't be surprised. Finance is always the #1 victim of phishing sites, but obviously it's not the only victim. And the important part here is that the threat actors will decide what he wants to attack. It's not our ability, the defender. We cannot do anything with it. We can unfortunately just stay aside and look on hundreds and thousands of new phishing sites every day that are attacking our clients. When we are looking on a phishing kill chain, it's the standard one. It's very similar to everything that you know from any other attack. And the important part to say is that we want to stop it, maybe on the delivery side, which it's obviously very, very hard because you don't know it exists. But for sure, we want to make sure that our clients won't be able to log into that, not be able to leave their credentials in these phishing sites. And now let's talk about a specific example. This threat actor called himself Mr. Weeby. Mr. Weeby is a coder from probably India We don't know it for sure because we only know what he tells us about it. And this is a threat actor that we saw in the dark web selling phishing kits, basically selling his clients, so to say, or another threat actors, selling phishing kits that allow them to create their own phishing infrastructure that attacks victims. And this threat actor recommends his clients to use, you see here, Change IP, one of the dynamic DNS infrastructure provider. And what he actually did is telling them exactly how to use it. And this is where it becomes interesting. The messages that you see here are real messages between our threat intelligence analyst and him. As you can see, we obviously do it through Avatar, so he doesn't know that it's us, until now that he probably will see it. But the idea is that he actually recommends us what to do and how to use his infrastructure. After we buy it, you can just deploy it in one of the registrar according to what you want, and you just start to create phishing sites as you want. You can see here basically the dashboard or the way the infrastructure look like from the attacker point of view. Basically what you see in the right side is all the audit logs of what's happened. Every user, every victim that log in into that infrastructure create an event, very similar to everything that we know from defense, just this is from the attack point of view. It's creating an audit event, and this event is being sent to whatever the threat actor wants. It can be to a Telegram channel, which become very, very common in threat actors because it's encrypted and nobody can basically detect it. Or it can be emails, as we used to work in the past. And in addition to that, it actually has an API that you can just connect into the API of the platform and basically retrieve all the events and everything that you want to have. And another thing that is important, you can generate a new website, or as we said before, a new subdomain from this platform. You basically said, I want to have this and that website, please generate me a subdomain, and it's automatically being done. It's going into the DNS provider. As I said, Change IP was one of them. Create a new subdomain through an API, and then all of a sudden you have a website, and you send the text message or the email from the phishing kit itself, and what's happened is that the victim received a new SMS with a new link. He never saw it, log in, put credentials, and we know the story. Another thing that happened is that before it's being sent into the Telegram or the email, it's actually being stored locally in the phishing kits. And this is how we actually saw it. We are able to scan these phishing kits, see exactly which kind of credentials there are stored in the local storage of the kit. And this is how we are able to see our victims. And we are able to tell our clients, look, someone create phishing sites to you. Please help us approve us, and we will take it down for you. And as you see, this threat actor, Mr. Wibby, is not really hiding himself. He's writing that he's the one who was developing it. He's very proud of it because this is how he makes money. He wants to sell it all the time. Another option that this phishing kit has are basically decide how you want to attack the client. If you want to attack it through a specific location, only Philippines clients will be able to see the sites. Or you want to making sure that you detect if someone is trying to detect you from the defense side. So you're saying if there was a redirection or something like that, please block this user and sending him to a different website. There are many, many options, and the important part is that all of these options are something that a threat actor can just use. It doesn't need to develop anything. It doesn't need to have any technical idea. And all he needs to do is basically go into an underground market, buy it, deploy it according to the instructions that he received from that threat actor, and that's it. He's ready to attack and he's ready to receive money. So what we can do with it? On the detection part, it's all start with the domain name. Basically, the way we believe that all the phishing sites look like is that there is some kind of a lookalike domain or a lookalike subdomain or something that looks like the real site, because the client basically will try to understand if it's a real site or not. As we said, registration are not enough, because threat actors can create subdomains which registration won't be able to see. So what we believe that we should do, and this is what we are doing in BlueVoyant, is first using the global internet data that we have to really see the traffic to these sites. Because from the traffic, you are able to understand which site there are today. Another thing is TLS certificates. If you see a new certificate that was generated, you may be able to understand what are the website behind it, and you will be able to detect it. And obviously, feeds, reports of the victim, which are very, very important, and this is the way you can detect, or at least part of detect exactly what they have there and what are the new phishing sites that were created today. After you detect a phishing site, you want to validate that it's a real thing. So what you need to do is basically take a screenshot or take the HTML of the website and compare it to the real website of your client or our client in that case. Because you don't want to just take down unlimited website, and you don't want to go into a registrar and tell him, look, we found the phishing site, but it's actually not phishing, it's empty. So what we are doing is taking this suspicious website, scan them, understand if they look like our real client's website, and if they are, we automatically request a takedown from the registrar, the hoster, or whatever they out there. And this allows us to do two things. One, this is allow us to work fast. We can detect very fast new phishing sites, and we are able to approach the registrar minutes, hours after they were created. And second, that allows us to only approach on the real malicious websites and not on everything that we are seeing. And the last part is obviously research. We always try to research and to understand what's happening with these kits that someone is published. We want to understand if there are new techniques or a new mechanism that these threat actors are using. We always try to understand what's happened in the dark web underground markets or in social media. Today, most of the conversation between threat actors are not really in the dark web, but they are in the social media. And instant messaging platform, as I said, Telegram is very, very common with threat actors. And obviously, the last part is dynamic analysis. We need to always change the way we detect and to always analyze what we are seeing, to making sure that we really understand if it's a phishing site or a phishing attack or not. And now let's go into the recommendation. First, it's important to say that unfortunately, there is no silver bullet to deal with phishing attack. I wish I could tell you here that if you will do that, nobody will be able to attack your clients, but unfortunately, it's not the case. What we need to do is always detect the new activities of the threat actors, take down this activity or remediate these activities, and search for the new ones. That's unfortunately the only mechanism that there is today. I wish that there will be something else. So the real-time monitoring, it's crucial to that part. You can do it, as I said, from everything that we are doing, registration, global information that we have, etc., etc. But a very important part is an abuse inbox. We cannot detect anything. Nobody of our competitors can detect everything. It's just not possible. So what we believe that should happen, in addition to our detection capability, is to have an abuse box. And that means that every time a victim sees something, we automatically will receive a notification about it, and we'll start the analysis and the remediation part. We don't need to wait for our clients to approve it, because if his client said that it's malicious, obviously it is, and we can start the remediation part. And the last and very, very important part is education customers. It's challenging. Some would say it's impossible, but it's very important. because eventually you are not defender your environment here. Usually when we are talking about cyber defense, we are talking about how we defend our assets, how we will monitor them better, how we will, which kind of agent we will install on our assets to make sure that nothing will happen to them. In phishing sites, it's not the case. In phishing sites or phishing attack, we're trying to defend our clients from themselves, basically, because they need to understand that someone is trying to trick them. And this is where it becomes very challenging. Educating them is very, very important, and this is probably one of the best option of preventing phishing attack. To end my presentation, I would say that threat actors become very, very sophisticated these days. Here I showed you how they use dynamic DNS infrastructure in order to create phishing sites, but tomorrow it may be something else. We are keep tracking on this attack techniques, always trying to talk with the threat actors and making sure we understand what they are doing. But in the end, the most and the very important thing is to detect it and to remediate on time. Thank you very much.